Let me tell you, the overwhelm has definitely set in. Hello, welcome to Show and Tell Meg. I'm Megan, and I like to make things. And I have officially moved. We are currently standing in my soon-to-be lovely sewing room, but at the moment, it is absolute chaos. I thought that I would show kind of the different elements that I brought with me. I have all my furniture here. I have most of my stash and things like that. Not all of it's in this room, and that is what's sad because if you can see behind me, I put all of my fabric and yarn in the double closet, and there's still more that hasn't fit in there. I'm going to be going through that, but today is not that day. Today, we are just situating furniture, deciding where things are going to be hung, and I'll kind of talk you through the things that I like to use to keep my space organized. That's kind of laughable if you know me, but I will say things got a little out of hand for a few years there, but overall, I kind of would pride myself on having all of this craziness pretty well organized so that I could put my hands on whatever notion or fabric it was that I wanted to use. And that has served me very well. So I want to make this room just as functional, hopefully slightly more functional than my last one, because my last one became so overrun with stuff that it didn't matter what organization systems I had, it couldn't contain it all. So I thought that it would be kind of maybe beneficial to someone else if I show you the things that I use to organize my stash, as well as to set up my room to make it as functional as possible. So if you are interested in that, then watch on and you'll get to see what my room looks like. We can start with where I am standing because it is one of my favorite pieces and it has had a little bit of a makeover in this move. So I have this IKEA table. I do not know the name of it. My ex-husband and I bought this in the IKEA as is section in 2009. And the glory of this is that it pops up to double in size. So I originally purchased this as a dining room table. And once we no longer needed that, I took it into my sewing room and it's been fantastic ever since. And it has definitely gotten a bit of a beating over the years, but it is still going strong. I know that I will use the daylights out of this. Plus, it's a sewing table, so I'm kind of gonna beat it up anyway. There's a little bit of paint on here. I have endeavored to keep it fairly nice, but it's not perfect. That's fine by me. I don't think that they make this table anymore, sadly. It has two built-in leaves and I angled them to where there's one on this side and one on that side. So it's 3 feet square. And when you pop out those leaves, it becomes 6 feet by 3, which is perfect. And it fits my secondhand cutting mat that is also 6 feet by 3. So before I moved, this table just had its regular legs on it, which they look like this. And it was never tall enough because it was just a regular table. And so what I did was someone gave me some closet made drawer units that are designed to sit in your closet. They were just 3 white drawers, very basic. And those, when you set this table on top, became the perfect height for me to cut on and not lean down and hurt my back. So I wanted to keep that same height, but those drawers are rickety as heck. They have way served their purpose. They just had a table sitting on them for years and years, and so it shifts like this. Like the drawers don't even stay in anymore. So when we moved, we knew I needed to have something different on the bottom, but I still wanted the same height. And so this time I've decided to not put all of the legs on. However, I had put these closet bar holder things on these 2 legs, and those legs made it possible for me to hang this dowel rod that had my medical exam table paper. This is what I use for tracing patterns. I trace every single pattern that I use. I am just really paranoid about cutting it and then changing size or needing to make it for someone else in a different size. So I just trace, and it saves me a lot of time. Well, it saves me time in the long run. It doesn't save me time on the initial project, but then I can make all the adjustments I need and I'm not hurting the original pattern. Anyway, I go through lots of medical exam table paper. That said, I bought like a 12 pack, I don't know, at least 8 years ago, and I still have like 4 or 5 rolls of it. So if you want a really cost effective tracing paper, then you look no further. Get this on Amazon for like, I don't know, at the time it was like $35 for 12 of them. So there's a little tip from me to you. All that is to say, I think I'm still going to put 2 of the legs on this table. I can't decide if I want on this side or that side. Maybe that side. But I'm going to cut them short. I'm going to come down where they have the dowel rod holder and just cut it right there, make it somewhat smooth. So that way it doesn't look silly like I have unused table legs hanging off my table. So while I'm putting my paper, I think on that other side of the table, on this side of the table, I'm going to do exactly what I did on the drawer units. And I use those little command hooks and I hang all of my rulers, my sock blockers, all those kind of long flat things that are really annoying to find a place for so that you don't have to put them in a drawer or something like that. They work fantastic right here because this lip of the table keeps them out of the way where I don't bang into them, and they are always accessible. Anyway, back to the height. So in looking at basically IKEA furniture, just because IKEA furniture is so easy to modify and it's pretty readily available, we discovered that they have, since I last looked at IKEA furniture, they have a calyx unit now that has a base. So this is the IKEA calyx unit with the base. It has legs down there. And the calyx unit by itself was not anyway tall enough. But when you add that base and then put my table on top of it, it became the perfect height. So we positioned the table and the calyx units so that this part is flush. And I'm just going to get some brackets that will screw these together so I don't have the problem of it leaning like I did last time. Because sometimes, if you're reaching over the table, you put too much weight on it, and next thing I know, this tabletop would be on the floor. I don't want that. So this time it's going to be a much more structured, sturdy piece of furniture. And that will be very useful, I think. So transitioning over to this side of the room, the table's right here, as you can see, and this is the wall that you see when you come through the door. The door is behind where you're standing, essentially. So these are my desks. They are also IKEA, but I didn't buy them at IKEA. I got these secondhand on Facebook Marketplace several years ago. I think like 6 years ago when I moved into my other house. But these are just the white laminate desktops, and then they have these spindly white legs. And I always like the look of them, but they're very sturdy. Previous to these desks, I was using a computer desk that I had painted to look cute, but the fact of the matter was that my machines, if I really put the pedal down, would make the whole desk shake. So these happily do not do that. This time I'm still putting my sewing machine over there. And then my serger, I think, is going to live on this corner. And then at the moment, I have all of my computer stuff. I do all of my editing in here. I also have a Plex server, so it's on all the time so that we can use it to watch things. So it can live here and then it's not in anybody else's way. But the wall is what is currently on my mind, because in my previous sewing room, right behind my sewing machine, I did have my thread racks. So I have the really big one over there. I have 3 other thread racks, 2 of which are painted white, and I really liked that. So those I had originally done a white one, the other white one, and then in between those, I have just the standard one that you can get from Joann's, which I guess I shouldn't say that anymore. You could get this at Hobby Lobby or some other kind. I think Michael sells it. You could probably buy them on Amazon. So I had this one, which is just a very standard one you can get anywhere. I had that in the middle. And then my other two, oh, there they are. Hold on. Man, this is turning into a lot of physical labor for this video. My other thread racks look like this. I was given these, and they're from the 80s or 90s. They say handcrafted wood products serger wall organizer. And I was given these by someone from someone's grandma when they passed away. And I painted them white because I was obsessed with everything white at the time. And so I have a serger one and a standard thread one. And so those went on either side of the basic one you can buy anywhere now. I got this huge wood one and I put my embroidery thread on it. And this one I put up above in the middle. So the question is, do I center that over the one desk like I did before, or do I just center it in the wall? I'm kind of more inclined to thinking I'm going to center it in the wall. So put this in the center kind of up above because I don't need to access this one as much. And then have the other one slightly easier access. But I also have some shelves that I made that I had a bunch of art supplies on from my watercolor days. And I haven't moved those over here yet because I have to uninstall them. We're still, gosh, the never-ending move, it feels like. It is taking so long to get everything packed up and moved. But once I get those over here, I'm kind of thinking I might do one of them on each side and set other tools that I use on them. But if you don't have any of these kinds of racks, I absolutely recommend them. If you have wall space, like this is obviously big and fancy. I got this at a thrift store. I don't know. I think I paid like $8 for it, but you can find them on Amazon. Like I said, those pine colored ones like that right there, and they're not very expensive. I think you can even get them at Walmart. So they are the best thread organization. They do get a little dusty because I'm not the most fastidious duster, but as long as you don't mind that, it's one of the best ways to organize your thread so that you can see it all and grab what you need. Sometimes the vintage thing that they used for it, even though it seems kind of old-fashioned, happens to be the most efficient, in my opinion. Also on this wall, I use a magnetic knife strip from IKEA. And gosh, I will never go back to any other way of storing my scissors and other metal tools that will stick to this. So I previously had it directly behind my sewing machine, like basically where that thread rack is. And so that's the question. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to put it right there or maybe in the middle of the wall. I don't know. But either way, it's going on this wall. I have all my scissors in a box with this. And I used to keep scissors, seam rippers, stiletto, pinking shears, all those kinds of things. And they all were easily at hand, but off of my surfaces, and absolutely my favorite way to store my scissors. Okay, I have angled the camera up because the other area that I want to do something with is up here. I have a lot, like a lot, of cute vintage sewing machines. Some of them are old Singer 15s. I have a pistachio colored Fremont. I have a blue colored White brand. I have a featherweight. So these are machines that I got really into fixing up vintage machines a couple of years ago. And so when I would find them cheap, I'd buy them if they were a cute color. And now I have all these machines that I'm not using them, but they are functional. And so I want to put some kind of extremely heavy duty shelf up there. I have not looked up quite how to do that yet, so it's not something that I'm doing right this second, but I have a whole bunch of vintage metal heavy sewing machines that I think would look really cool if I could display them up on the top somehow. We have rotated again, so my desk is over here. And then in this corner, I have my vintage sewing pattern cabinet. I wanted one of these for years. And I even tried to get one when Hancock Fabrics went out of business. They were selling them off. And I was so upset that by the time I got there, they were completely sold out of them. A friend of mine, her mom had passed away and she had this in her sewing room and she offered it to me. I was absolutely elated. I'm like, yes, absolutely. When can I come and grab it? So I've put it right here. So this is actually directly in front of the door when you walk in, which I kind of like because it's got that vintage aesthetic, you know. I don't have the drawers in it yet because we were trying to figure out placement and those suckers are heavy. They're heavy on a good day. This is an old-fashioned metal filing cabinet, but when it's full of sewing patterns, like I don't know if you've paid attention when you buy sewing patterns how deep those drawers are, but they're quite heavy. So that will be a project for another day. But for the moment, it is living here, and I know that I'm going to keep it in this corner. And then I have my dress form. Again, I'm not positive if she's going to live right here. I mean, she fits right there pretty well. So maybe she will live here. This is a collapsible shoulder dress form that my family got me for Christmas several years ago from a store display shop. I cannot remember the name of the company now, but it was promoted by Gertie, by Gretchen Hirsch of Charm Patterns at the time, back when it was just Gertie. And it's a collapsible shoulder. It is pinnable, you know. It's not exactly my size. I deliberately got one that was slightly smaller because I always planned on padding it out to be the same size as me. And I just never have. To be honest, this is not an essential sewing tool, but I really like having her in this room because I can drape things on here, and I mean, it sounds like just a glorified display, but I do use it for hemming or for necklines or for pressing shoulders and things like that. It does come in handy, but it's certainly not something that I think that everyone needs to have. The nice thing is that it does have a wheelie base. So I know that even if I decide to move it out of this little spot, I can wheel it around at will. So as you can see through my sheer curtain, this is the sliding glass door that goes out to the pool. But this is where I think I'm going to put my ironing board. I have a vintage wooden ironing board, and this sucker is so sturdy. It has lasted longer than my lifetime, and I think it will keep lasting. So I love this thing. If you have the chance to find a vintage wood one, I totally recommend it. It is so much sturdier than the modern crappy ones you can buy today. You know, the only thing is they tend to be cut shorter. And this one is from the same friend who gave me the pattern cabinet. Her mom was taller. And so this is a perfect height for me to iron without hurting my back. I had one before that I never even used because it was probably 3 inches shorter than this. And I know that doesn't sound like very much. When you're ironing something and you're pressing down, like you're leaning that little bit, it's just enough to make your back hurt. So this is my ironing board, and it's going to live here. The reason that it has to live in a place is because I do have a gravity fed iron. And so it has to have a place that this reservoir is hung from. I've seen people use IV poles for that if they want to wheel it around, but personally, I don't feel the need to move it around that much. I just give it a stationary home right above the ironing board. And so eventually, I have a hook. It's like a plant hook that I painted white to blend in with the wall that I'm going to put up there once I uninstall it from my other house. And then I'll be able to hang this from it again, and we will be back in business for the iron. That fascinator there, I wore that in my wedding this summer, and it just blends in with these curtains perfectly. So it's just always lived with curtains. These curtains were previously in my bedroom before I moved, but the new bedroom is different colors. Like, I was not married at the time, and I don't think that my new husband doesn't really want pink ruffly curtains in our bedroom, which I understand. That is his prerogative. So I decided to just repurpose them in here, and they're kind of working great. They were like Walmart clearance curtains a couple of years ago. I thought about making some, but I don't know what fabric I would want to use, and these look nice and fresh, so we're just going to use them for now, and then maybe, who knows, in the future, I might crochet some or jazz these up in some way. Who's to say? Okay, we are back over by my closet, and you can kind of see the chaos. I will show you a panned down. Let's pan down a little. As you can see, there is absolute bedlam going on at the base of this closet. And the closet itself is just brimming with too much stuff. So I will be getting rid of things as I get this situated, but I do definitely advocate storing your stash in clear bins. I used to use bins you could not see through, I've used cardboard boxes. I have used all kinds of things. These bins are pretty heavy duty. Most these top ones that you can see, the clear ones I got at Target, they're Sterilite. They're like $8 and they hold up better than any of the other ones that I have used before. Down on the bottom, I had some older Sterilite ones. I don't know if you can see that white lid there. And those, they don't have handles and they crack under the weight of the stuff that's above them. These, I will say I haven't put them underneath a whole bin full of fabric yet, but they seem to be holding up considerably better. So I will be, retooling what bins are in here. Some of them, like you can see, some of them are leaning. That's because the one underneath is cracked. But I will be going through my fabric and yarn after I get all of this stuff moved. I basically just needed to move really quickly. So we fixed this closet. It has a light. The light is functioning, all that kind of stuff. And then I just moved all my stash in here. So this will evolve over time. We did remove the closet doors, not because I hate closet doors. I actually don't mind them. And if I can find some other ones, I may return them. I don't know. But they were old, like 80s mirrored doors that were on here. One of them had cracked. And we redid the floor in this room and it had a bottom track that was breaking up the floor. And I'm like, those doors are already cracked and we're going to have to cut the floor right there. Like, let's just take it out and make a smooth transition. So that's what we did. And knowing that it's not a huge deal, even if I don't have closet doors right now, I do have the upper track. I can always install new ones if I find them. But in the meantime, I can make curtains. Clearly, I have enough fabric. So I will make some kind of curtain, I think, to go right here, unless I miraculously find the perfect size closet doors that fit and that aren't crazy expensive. I'm also a big believer in shorter bins and like smaller bins for notions. I also use this. This is just terrible, honestly, but I got these at a yard sale, or I can't remember if it was an estate sale or a thrift store, but it's these really hard plastic drawer unit things. And each one has 2 drawers, look like this. And they do connect to each other. So for a while, I had them all together, but then when I moved to my other house, I had them underneath my IKEA desk, and it was only tall enough for 2 of them to sit on top of each other. And so that's why this one's empty and those drawers are just sitting there. But this bottom one I had underneath, and that actually worked pretty well. And I have one drawer that is snaps, and one drawer that has elastic and Velcro, and another drawer that had cutting implements. And I have a Sizzix paddle punch in one of them. And just each drawer had a specific kind of purpose. So it works really handy to keep them organized that way. I know they still sell these types of drawer unit things, but I got them for $2. So I don't think they're quite that cheap, but you can find them, I'm sure. These clear bins down here are, one of them is full of like bias tape and anything that comes in a packet like bias tape. I buy tons of vintage bias tape from thrift stores for like 10 cents a piece, and they're all organized by what type they are. Seam binding, I don't know, lace, hem tape, all that kind of thing. That's all in there. Then I have another one that has various stabilizers. It's got some sulky tearaway in there. There's some espadrille bottoms. I don't know, random things. And then the bottom one is full of zippers. Because years ago, I got an entire grocery bag full of 110 zippers for $10. So I'm still working off of that. Plus, I don't always have the exact right color and size and all that kind of thing. So I still do buy some. And as I find others, if I find metal ones and things like that in thrift stores, I buy those too. So they're all living in there, and I always have a zipper. So the closet side of the room over here is definitely going to evolve over time as I am able to move these things and find a home for them. But they are at least pretty much organized by what they are. Even my yarn bins, I have, solid color fingering weight, and I have it organized by brand. Then I have another one that has self-striping or hand-painted fingering weight. I have a couple of them that are different types of knit picks all together. I have some that's chunky yarn. I have some that are acrylic. Like, I try to keep the yarn at least somewhat organized by type and size, so that if I'm like, oh, I need this color or whatever, I do have my entire stash organized on Ravelry. And that way I know, oh, it's a bulky weight wool, it's going to be in this bin. So it makes it so much easier. It is definitely a lot of work to put into getting it to that point, but it's really worth it. So now we are on the opposite wall. The door to get in is over there. I decided to put my etagere over here. I bought this off of Craigslist a really long time ago, and I decided to paint it. I think it was probably like 10 years ago. And this was a really dark stained, 70s looking wood. I painted it white because I was obsessed with white furniture at the time. I still like it, but it comes in really handy. It holds my absolutely tiny, by today's standards, 19-inch TV. But this is just enough if I want something on in the background while I'm working on things. But I do put a lot of things to display over here. So previously this had a bunch of knitting books at the top. It had stuffed animals, things that were kind of my more favorite animals that I had made. I had like a baby doll. I have the not so itty bitty giraffe, things like that were a more involved project. And I like to display them on this shelf. So I don't know. I'm going to make it a little more functional than it was last time. It was mostly just display. We're going to see. It may end up being mostly display again, but it's a nice sturdy piece of furniture. And I'm happy to have it in here. I think it adds a little something. So don't discount old furniture. I was very into painting furniture. This was all spray painted. I think I actually have a blog post about it. I can link it below, and it lists all the different layers of what I put to get it to this point. But considering that it was painted, no joke, 10 years ago, it's holding up great. Like, it does have a few nicks on the corners that I could easily touch up if I wanted to, but it has a polyurethane, like Minwax, clear, what's it called? Polycrylic on the outside, which kept that nice white color and didn't make it yellow. And yeah, it's held up really great. So if you are doing things on a budget, like, buying all the spray paint does add up, but I've gotten a really sturdy, nice piece of furniture out of it that's lasted me all this time. So I recommend giving spray painting furniture a try. And speaking of spray painting furniture, I don't know if I can get this to an angle you can see this better. It's kind of hard to see, but I also spray painted this. This is a 70s French provincial dresser that I got for free from a friend, or no, it was $10. And I decided to spray paint it because I did the whole room in white and coral. So this is another spray painting job, and it has also held up great. I did it at the same time as the etagere, and yeah, it's held up fantastic. And I had always intended to make this a bit more functional on the top. The drawers, though, are extremely organized. I have my whole button stash in the bottom deeper drawer. Then in the middle, I've got blockers. I had my yarn winder in there. I have knitting needles and extra knitting notions in this drawer. On the other side, I have my other knitting needles and crochet hooks, and I have in the next drawer like my googly eyes in an organizer, and then I had in my bottom, I have like bias, tape maker, I don't know, various machines. I have embroidery hoops. It's very organized. It's a bit crazy right now just because of moving, and I threw a bunch of things into the drawers. But I do know, like, oh, I need some googly eyes. I can go to this drawer and I can pull out all of my various sizes of googly eyes from, or well, they're not all googly eyes. These are safety eyes from when I was making amigurumi all the time. I have like all the sizes of eyes. I have different colors in there. So I love these things. I use them a lot. I have a couple of organizers that might end up sitting on top of this, including that stacking one. We're going to see. I don't know if I want to put it under that desk again or stack it on here. And this wall is wide open too. I have a couple of little decorative shelves that I used to put above this. I also have my 1930s Simplicity print that they did a few years ago. That goes in the middle. So this one, I'm not entirely sure what's going to go on this wall. We're going to see how that wall goes, and then I'm going to come over here and fill it in. And then when we get over near the door, I'm going to put a bookshelf. This is the bookshelf that I brought with me that was in my sewing room, but as you can see, this is $30 IKEA bookshelf that has been in use since 2009. And so the shelves have sagged. It's very unstable. And I have a taller kickboard on this wall than I did in my previous house. And so it doesn't want to sit flush against the wall. Instead of modifying this to make that work, I think we're just going to buy a new bookshelf. I think it is time. So I'm deciding whether I go with this color, which I don't mind. Like, I like the slightly different pop of wood. The floor is a nice light Vessonet oak color. So I'm okay with doing this color or white. We'll see. I'm going to go to IKEA and maybe get a Billy bookcase this time. Like, go with the expensive one. This will hold all of my sewing books, PDF patterns. Down there I had a couple of bins. So again, we're going to see what all fits where, but it will definitely get used. And then while we're talking bookcases, I'm back in that other corner by the closet. We're talking about putting one of the small Billy bookcases right there. So we're going to see. I think that that will fit, and that would use a lot of my stuff and give me a place where I can display some of my things, to where I can make some of the other spaces a little more functional use instead of just display. So this is my new sewing room, and I really, really like it. I love the color of the floors with the white walls. I think it just makes it really fresh and clean. And then any of the decor that I put in here just really pops against the very basic workroom kind of vibe. Like, I feel like this is a workroom out of Project Runway in some ways, as far as how it looks, right? Like white walls, light floors. And yeah, I'm really excited to put all of it together. I just need the time to do it, like anything, because we are still trying to empty out my old house so that we can put that on the market, because isn't that so fun? So thank you for coming and seeing the tour of my new sewing room, even though it's not done yet. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see how this room looks after I have done all the things to it and put everything where it belongs, then hit the subscribe button, and I will definitely be putting up a new video once I get that done. Who knows? Maybe I'll have some in the middle process videos too. We're going to find out. But in the meantime, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.